That's it. I guess that's a yes, everybody's done?
I think so.
Okay, number one. Tell you the answers here so you can see maybe how you did. You're going to count 8 points each. Number one, evidence gained by careful observation is called empirical evidence, D. 2, the reading said blank should have been a fatal blow to psychics and astrologers. September 11th. D. No one predicted that. All those psychics out there. 3, phrenology became widely popular in the early 1800s. It had to do with bumps on the skull. That's D. 4, Sigmund Freud listened to patients and concluded that their problems were due to early childhood trauma.
True.
His approach is known as
psychoanalysis.
Psychoanalysis. That's C. 5, the psychologists that diagnose, treat, and study people with mental or emotional problems and are trained to do psychotherapy are clinical psychologists. That's C. 6, a dissertation is a major scholarly project. If you're going to get a PhD in something, you have to do a dissertation.
Did you have to do?
I don't have a PhD.
You should get one so we can call you Dr.
I don't want to do a
Willis.
dissertation. Yes, you'd have to call me Dr. Willis if I did one, which would be nice, but not worth the 2-year project to me. 7, which of the following is a medical doctor? Psychiatrist. Let's see. And to find out whether you understand the 5 major perspectives in psychology, did any of y'all recognize this? Open your little handout or book if you have one. I want to show you where this was. Look on page 8. Look at the green box. Those were those 5 questions.
Learning was replaced by behavior.
So,
Did you shuffle them?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't.
You shuffled them.
I shuffled them.
And
didn't I?
learning was replaced with behavioral.
Was learning replaced? Got me where
I
I did.
shuffled them. So, anxiety symptoms often bring hidden rewards, such as being excused from exams.
Learn.
That's learning, which is also called behavioral.
So which one?
That was D. Excessive anxiety can be caused by a chemical imbalance.
B.
That's biological, B. A national emphasis on competition and success promotes anxiety about failure.
A.
That's sociocultural, which is A on my test. Anxious people often think about the future in distorted ways.
C.
That's cognitive, which is C on the. And anxiety is due to forbidden unconscious desires. That's psychodynamic. That's Freudian stuff. Which is E. So yeah, I did mix them up so you couldn't just memorize them and put the answers. But I did. Those answers were in our book. So again, the quick quizzes is maybe something you want to look at. Bonus: in the newspaper at the chapter opening was an article about Davy Schreider, who had become the youngest American Rhodes Scholar at age. Anyone know? 18.
Oh,
You take 17.
In the lab in question 4, patients looked at their reactions after a 1.5 second long experiment.
You take 5.
What do we say?
You take
1
10.
second.
I think 1.5.
Forgot the 1
is the
point
answer.
part.
The movement known as blank psychology gained force in the 60s. Humanist psychology. Okay, so that's an example of a quiz. That's actually a pretty long quiz. I usually don't have that many questions. It's usually 8 questions, maybe 10. And I can give it to you at any time. They're pop quizzes. I do them probably half the time or so. Just whenever I feel like it. So try to make sure you keep up with your reading so you do well for that portion. That's 15% of your grade. There's also 15% of your grade in your experiment that you're going to do. Which, if you do it and do a decent job of it, you'll end up getting probably an A or maybe even 100 on that section, which really helps. But you don't want to add bad quiz grades in. Also, did I tell you the other day there's movies that you can watch?
Yes, sir.
To bring up low quiz grades if you would like to do that. Yes?
So, that lawn movie, that's worth, like, is it 40 points?
30 points.
30 points?
Yeah.
So if I get 100 on that quiz, I get 40 points?
You'd get 40 points.
What's it called again, the movie?
Indictment.
Oh, okay. Is it interesting?
It's about the, it's about a family in Los Angeles who runs a preschool and gets accused of molesting the children. And the court case that followed is a true story.
That's right.
I'm not going to tell you.
Harry.
Our book talks about it in chapter
Like a
7.
documentary.
Darth Vader is his father.
No, it's a scripted movie, but it's based on that story. So it has because we talk about that in a later chapter on memory. It's about memory and how memories can be changed and distorted and things like that. Okay, I want you to do 2 things. Will you first turn to the page that has this, that shows this diagram. Does anyone have that open right now in your book? It's, I don't know, 17 or somewhere around there. 15. Okay, turn to 15. And also, yes? Okay. Also, will you get out your critical thinking handout that I gave you? Can you get that out? We're going to work on that some. If you're going to study something scientifically, you have to obey the principle of falsifiability, which is what this is talking about here. Any problem that you choose to study, and you're going to do an experiment. And when you do your experiment, you have to choose a question that is somehow falsifiable, where there can be an answer that's right or wrong, and you don't know what that answer is. We call this the principle of falsifiability. And here, let me use their example here to try and explain it to you. Have you ever heard somebody say, misery loves company? You ever heard that expression? That's kind of an old expression. Raise your hand if you've heard the expression, misery loves company. Even if you haven't heard it, can you guess what it might mean? Misery loves company. Anyone? Bueller? Miserable people love to be with other people. Right? Misery loves company. And it could specifically mean miserable people love to be with other miserable people. But is that sort of thing scientifically testable?
Yes.
You say yes?
Actually,
No? Think about it. Can we test that? Is there a way you could do an experiment to test and see if misery loves company?
no. Yes.
How could you do it? Let's think about this. Pretend you got to set up an experiment. You're going to have to think of your own experiment for this class. So how can we test misery loves company?
Well, we could,
Get some miserable people. Okay, and then do what with them?
put them together, see what
Put
happens.
them in separate rooms and put different amount of people in different rooms and see if they're happier with more people or less people.
Okay, that sounds good. Put a miserable person in a room with a lot of people and a miserable person in a room with not a lot of people, and see if they're still miserable. Is that what you're saying? And how can you test if they're still miserable? Is there a way to test misery?
Test their serotonin.
Chemicals in the brain?
Maybe you could test chemicals in the brain if you were able to somehow get a hold of those. I don't know, or maybe brain waves or something like that. Maybe you can test that. Maybe you could have them fill out a survey or something. But do you see how this problem is falsifiable? It can either have a yes or no answer. We don't know what the answer is. Maybe you'll get results that show that miserable people do like to hang out with other people, or maybe you'll get results that show that they don't. You see what I'm saying? Misery loves company, that statement can be false or true. It's falsifiable. Here's their falsifiable prediction. When people are anxious, they are more likely to want to be with others in the same situation. So that's a prediction. There's another word for prediction that we have in a scientific experiment. Do you know what it is? Another word for making a prediction? Hypothesis. A hypothesis. So we've made a hypothesis here that when people are anxious, they are more likely to want to be with others in the same situation. They show a couple of people here sitting in a waiting room. I don't know, maybe I'd want to test this by having people who are going into a job interview. And you offer them a choice of where to sit. And you might have two rooms where they can sit. And when they come in, they say, okay, sit down, you got to wait. And normally people are anxious when they're going to a job interview. And you have them come to a hallway, and on this side of the hallway there's a room they can wait in with other people in it, and on this side of the hallway there's a room with nobody in it. And see how often people go into the room with other people. Maybe that'd be a good experiment to test it. I don't know, I'm just thinking here. There you see a couple of anxious people sitting in a waiting room. Maybe that's how they test it. And if most people went into the room with the other people, you might say that anxious people are more likely to wait with others in the same situation. That is a possible outcome. And that supports your hypothesis. If they tend to go in the other room, you might say, well, anxious people are more likely to want to be alone, and that would refute your hypothesis. That would go against what you were predicting. Or you might find that it's just 50-50. Half the people go into that room and half the people go into that room. And that would say that anxiety has no effect on the behavior. And that also refutes your hypothesis, because your hypothesis was that anxious people are more likely to want to be with other people. So either of those outcomes refutes your hypothesis. So when you're picking an experiment to do, pick something where you can make a hypothesis, a guess about what the outcome's going to be, and that you could then do an experiment that could come up with data that either supports your hypothesis or refutes your hypothesis. That's how science is done. You need to write it up in a way where somebody could copy your experiment exactly. Somebody else could do the same experiment you did and check your results. So it's very important when you're writing up your experiment to put all the details about how you pulled this off. You know, you might want to write in stuff in there like how big the rooms are you used. What age people did you use? You know, What kind of interview were they going to? What time of the day did you do it? Did you do it in the day? Did you do it at night? You know? Was it done in a big city or a little town? Just put all the information you can so somebody else who doesn't know anything about you could look at your little data book and copy your procedure exactly. And see if they get the same result you got. And if several people copy your experiment and got the same results you got, then you could start to make a theory about if misery loves company is true. A theory is kind of an idea that, yes, if it's true, it's been supported by data, by several experiments. Usually it takes just more than one experiment to form a theory. A nice theory like the theory of evolution has had lots and lots of data supporting it. So, usually many experiments have to be done. And that brings me to this dowser. See that guy? He's holding two sticks. And like I said before, you take the two sticks and you walk around, and whenever you get over water, the sticks go down. That's how a dowser works. And he finds water for you, and you dig there to get to water. And people out in the Midwest use this because you can't always find water everywhere. You're going to dig to find a well, you see. So you hire a dowser. Some dowsers, they pay 5, 6, 10 grand to come out there and find water for them. Does it really work?
Did they actually find water?
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes they find water. Sometimes they don't.
Pretty reliable. If they pay that much for it.
But does it really work? Well, is there a way you could test that?
Yes.
This has actually been tested scientifically. You could have a field and bury a big tank of water somewhere and not tell the guy, and then bring him in and see if he can find it. And if it points towards the water, it works. And if he's pointing somewhere else, it doesn't. But you couldn't just do one try because he could get lucky, right? You'd have to have him do it a bunch of times and see if he gets it more often than you would normally get it by chance. You know, that's the way a lot of magicians work. That's the way a lot of card tricks work. Have you ever watched, what's the guy from New York? He's awesome. He's a great magician. David Blaine. Ah, he's incredible. But he's not really magic. Everything he does is a trick. And one of the things he does is he comes in there and he grabs somebody like this and he goes, I want you to think of this card that I'm thinking of, or that I have in my pocket, or whatever. And you know, the guy says, Queen of Hearts. And he'll pull out the Queen of Hearts, you know. And I mean, it's fantastic, right? It's like, how in the world did he do that? Well, there's a lot of ways to do that trick. One, you could have a Queen of Hearts in this pocket, and you can have a Queen of Spades in this pocket, you can have an Ace of Spades in this pocket, and you can have something tucked in here, and he doesn't know where you can have it in your shoe, you know, he doesn't know where you're going to pull it out of, and as long as you've memorized everywhere, if you have 52 cards on you, you can get it no matter what they guess. Isn't that a cool way of doing it? Sometimes he does tricks like that. But sometimes he just gets the cold guess. You know? He'll come into somebody and he'll go, think of a card. I want you to do this. Think of a card right now. Okay, don't tell me what it is. You thinking of it? You got it? Ace of Spades. No. Didn't work, did it? Imagine if it worked. What would his reaction have been? What was it?
5 diamonds.
What if I'd have said 5 of diamonds? What would you have done? You know, I have a 1 in 52 chance of getting it, right? Or is it 50? I can't remember what the cards and the states. It always get confused. 1 in 52 chance I have of getting that right, you see. And in the show, they do that. They'll take him, and he'll come up to some guy on the street, and he'll guess, and they'll get it wrong. And then they'll go to another guy, and they'll keep filming until he gets one right. And the guy is amazed, and that's the only one they show on the TV. I know that because I went on the internet and looked it up after I saw it.
This could be awkward.
And the guy's just amazed. And you can tell when he's amazed, he just freaks out. He's like, oh, how'd you do that? And there's also, but he really gets it more than 1 in 52 times because there's certain cards people tend to pick more often than others. If you guess Queen of Hearts or Ace of Spades, you'll get that more often than 1 out of 50 times. It's like a 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 chance that somebody picks the ace of spades or the queen of hearts, because that's just something, a common card that people think of. And then you remember they had that song, Playing with the Queen of Hearts. Remember that song? Big in the 70s? Okay. So dowsers, they don't use the principle of falsifiability. What will happen with a dowser if you say, okay, find water, and it points towards water, and you say there's no water there, you know what he'll say?
It's even deeper.
He'll say, well, maybe say even deeper, maybe he'll say the stars aren't aligned right, or I can't do it with you looking at me, or he'll say, sometimes it messes up. So there's no way to prove him wrong. If he gets it right, he'll say, I told you I was right. And if he gets it wrong, he'll say there's something wrong with the aura or whatever. And this is the way all people who read horoscopes, people who tell the future, psychics and all that sort of stuff, that's the way they all work. They all work the same way. If they get it right, they'll say, I told you I was right. And if they get it wrong, they'll say, well, something was wrong. And they usually make predictions that are so vague, it probably works for you anyway. I could say something to you that would probably be right for all of you, right? Let me do my tongue little psychic prediction. You often feel insecure the day before a test. See?
That's amazing.
See? Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I got that right because you're human. See, we all have, Let me guess another one. You're often very tired right after you get up. Yeah, you see? Psychic.
It's kind of scary.
Did I put my Family Guy thing on here? Family Guy thing's hilarious.
Wait, you don't have any stupid videos? Or...
There are no stupid videos, only stupid questions.
Yeah, watch this one.
This is real. I believe.
Whoops. Dang it.
You're trying to sound
His face.
I believe I am psychic. My first prediction, I am either going to fly or ruin that family's picnic.
Hey, you ruined our picnic!
Psychic!
Okay. So, you have to use critical thinking, and how many have done some of the critical thinking worksheet? Have y'all done any of it? Again, you're going to hand this in. I want a little explanation, just a sentence or so on each one. Let's work on it for about 10 minutes here, and then I'll talk about more of these. And I want you to finish this tonight if you haven't finished it yet. Okay? You can turn off the recording.